You're tuned in to Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk, live every weekday on the Nation Network YouTube.
Oilers Nation every day, and sometimes it's Oilers Nation twice a day, as we learned yesterday. Big things happening. Let's get into it with the lead.
You're happy to say that.
I came up with that like literally 30 seconds ago. I usually don't overly prep what I'm going to say in that first thing, and that one just came to me at the last second.
You're a laugh at your own jokes guy.
That was a good one. Oilers Nation twice a day. Maybe we'll do it again today. If Kenny Holland makes a big splash.
He's spitting rhymes.
Hey, why not? Why not? I did that. I did that yesterday. It is a Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day edition of the show today. We are coming to you live from the Sports Closet studio, sportscloset.ca. Mattias Ekholm, number 14. I'm sure they can hook you up. Or
what is Devin Shore getting?
Yeah, he's got 19.
But what is he getting?
Oh, what's the gift?
He got a reward of not being sent down for
I think that is enough as well. That is good enough compensation.
The Oilers were like, you will get an extra 3 days of NHL pay this month. And he was like, hell yeah. It's going to be a busy show. A very busy show. If you're watching on the Nation Network YouTube, hammer the like button, hammer the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed. Yeah, we hit 9K subscribers yesterday. We had over 12,000 people watch our live reaction to Mattias Ekholm. Amazing. Shout out to all the OGs in the chat, the people who were here early in the season when we were like, hey, there's 60 people in the chat. It's been awesome.
It's amazing to see how far it's come. Good work.
I love all the trade talk. I know that's why you're all here, which is why we went, gave the little signal to the bullpen and waved in Frank Seravalli for today's show. We'll get to him in about 10 minutes time.
Does he throw right or left?
He's a righty. He's a big shutdown righty reliever.
All right.
Straight gas too. Straight 99. Gas. Pew,
Gasavali?
Liam is there. He
I'm back.
Honestly, I didn't even really prep for today's show. We're gonna go whatever way the people want us to go.
Do we need to prep right now?
No.
I feel like we can just walk on the show and have about a million things to talk about with this team.
Well, what are we doing next? Well, should we talk about the trade? I guess you guys already did a live.
I'm actually very curious about your reaction.
Yeah, today. And also now that you've had, and this is a question for people in the chat, you've had 24 hours to sleep on this bad boy. Aaron, let's flash this thing up. Ekholm and a 6th coming to Edmonton. Barrie, Reid Schaefer, a 2023 first and a 2024 4th-round pick. Friend of the show, Reid Schaefer, gone out the door.
Oh,
your reaction to this move?
We need a Preds Nation show to bring it back onto, eh? So I just got the news. So on Tuesdays, I play ice hockey at 4 p.m. And that trade, what happened at 3:40 or 3:45, or 3:30 or something like that. So that trade happened, and I was going through the emotions of it, and it consumed me the whole time I was on the ice. Like, I was just...
That's all you could think about.
All I could think about, because...
You were like out there playing like Mattias Ekholm, too.
No. That's only a pond hockey. I'm the shutdown guy. There's enough offensive guys on our pond hockey team. So I was initially, like, we got our guy, and I know I say whatever it takes, and I do mean that. I just feel like Barrie shouldn't have been a part of that transaction. I felt like Barrie should have been a guy we should have tried to keep because he drives our power play. He's defensively been better this season and well-loved guy in the room. So I thought him being part of the deal, like that, I was upset about that. And so that's what I was processing during the game. And then you see, after you see Connor's messages and everyone's message saying that, like, how he's loved and is going to be missed. So I felt like he shouldn't have been the guy that was in that package.
But so if you had the choice of not doing it or doing it the way they did, because that might have been the only option.
Yeah. So then I go back to, we got our guy.
Yep.
So I'm just like, and I'm sure it was probably explored about replacing him with someone else. In that deal, but it was, I guess, who they're willing to replace him with is what I'd like to know. So like, I've been hard on getting Ekholm. We got him, so I'm pumped. But now, since we let Barrie go, I really need to know that there is another defensive move happening. Because once again, I will give my full thoughts and feelings on this once we're through this. So that was a big name to go get. That is an impact player that's going to help us in an area we're extremely weak. So we got our guy. We got exactly in that window. So we got him, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think the way to look at it, if you want to go, could they have kept Barrie potentially? How else could you get 4.5 out the door, right? And that would have required probably 2 pieces. Like, I won't lie, I would have loved if it was Cody Ceci in the deal instead, right? You could have made that money work if it was just Ceci instead of Barrie, but you don't know how it affects the other asks, or if Nashville was even willing to consider something like that. So
we gave up a right shot. Like, we've really created a hole on the right side.
Just on the right side of the team.
No, we didn't. This Ekholm can play the right side is a folk tale. Like, tell me how many minutes he's played his opposite side. I'm sure it's very limited.
But I think he could, or he has in the past. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think
maybe he's done a shift where he's played on his offside. I don't think you want him on his left side.
Sure.
So
and that's
what are we getting? So once again, what are we doing to fix the hole now we have on the right side?
Yeah. So this is from our friends at Daily Faceoff. Ekholm via Jay Woodcroft is going to start on a pairing with Evan Bouchard. I'm actually really excited to see that duo.
This is going to be good for him. This is that kind of key thing. Yep. So this is going to protect Bouchard. This might allow us to see. I know I'm critical of Bouchard, but if he's insulated, he can be fine. So this now we get to see if we can get last season Bouchard back. The thing, though, we have to talk about Bouchard, and I wish the others should have been maybe thinking about their moves here, is now he's going to quarterback our power play, I assume.
I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Should we not have extended him 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, maybe. I also don't think, like, if you go into a negotiation,
chess game, man.
I know, but if you were to go into a negotiation with him at the end of the year and he scores 6 goals on the power play from now till the end of the season, it's not like you'd consider.
It gets used, man.
I know it will, but if you're the Oilers, you can just sit there and go, okay, well, yeah, it's because we put you on the power play.
Yeah, but like, what if you had done it all season? I would have had 24 goals. Like
that's great.
So, but like it can't for the same reason. Same reason they're going to use against them. He can use against them.
Sure.
Right. It's the opposite. So, like if you're playing, chess not checkers, maybe you should have extended them.
Yeah,
January.
I mean, maybe
if you knew the risk of Barrie being gone.
I also don't think you knew the risk of Barrie being gone,
or you maybe would have known 2 weeks ago because they would have been checking. Well, I don't
think so. I think
know.
This comes together pretty quick. And this one in particular came together pretty quick. In the chat, let us know, are you waking up this morning? Were you more happy we have Ekholm or sad we lost Barrie and a first and our guy, Ginger Beef?
I'll get over it.
Yeah.
As a little guy, I'm very upset about losing Ginger Beef. Got to open up a noodle in Nashville now.
There's a couple narratives that are really driving me nuts, though. Seems to be this weird, and listen, I liked Reid Schaefer. There's this weird thing going around with certain people where they're making it seem like they just traded like Connor freaking Bedard. It was like a lot of like, well, every GM was asking about Reid Schaefer. That's the prize prospect. And it's like, okay, sure. But
is he though?
Or
is it Holloway or is it Bourgault?
And that's exactly my take. And it feels like there's some people who want to try rain on this deal a little bit. Oh, the power play without Bouchard. The power play was first in the freaking NHL with Oscar Klefbom. Go look at the per 60 numbers. The power play can be just as productive with Evan Bouchard. I think his shot doesn't get through as clean, but he also has a harder shot, and that makes me believe in the potential of it a little bit more. He's still a right shot, so you can still set him up for that one-timer as well. It's a good fit still. And I know Jay Woodcroft said today they might even mix Darnell Nurse into the power play a little bit, which I'm not as high on. I don't view him as a power play quarterback at all. But I believe in Bouchard being here.
Wasn't Nurse on the power play during the Canadian division year?
Yeah, he would have gone because that was the year they just brought in Barrie.
But that was the year he had his career year, right?
Barrie took it over though, didn't he?
Yeah, Barrie.
I think eventually he took it over, right? But I don't know. I do trust Nurse on that power play. I think he'll be kind of conservative, but we pay him a lot of money, so now it's his time to go and shine on the power play and maybe stack up some points a little bit too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying go get Jacob Vrana now.
Vrana or Chychrun?
Or both, but I'm trying to ignore the Chychrun comments for now.
How do you get Vrana?
I like Vrana because I think you're going to get him retained, and he's going to be a little bit cheaper.
You need him twice retained. He's 5-something.
Not if you move Yamamoto out. But the only issue then is you're swapping a righty for a lefty. Like, I think they need to focus on the right side.
Why don't we go after Radish? He's a right shot guy, cheap, and he's producing. Why don't we go after that guy?
Why don't you go get Radish and Domi in one move?
Well, Radish, and now let's go get Chychrun.
Well, that's an interesting one too, because the LA Kings were the team that was going to be all in on Jacob Chychrun, right? That seemed like the natural fit. They go out and get Gavrikov, and we'll talk about that move in a bit. But now you look around the league. Okay, Edmonton was interested in Chychrun.
Mm-hmm.
They go get their guy. Boston interested in Chychrun. They go get their guy. Toronto interested in Chychrun to some extent. We heard a little bit, maybe not that much, but regardless, they go and get their guy.
Guys,
yeah, they really load up. But every team, for the most part, that's had interest in Chychrun at some point is going out and filling the spot. And I do think when you look at the deal for Gavrikov, Columbus had to really come down in their ask. They wanted a first and a third just straight up for Gavrikov. They wanted the Savard return, which would have been another pick on top of that. They end up having to trade Korpisalo in the move and take Jonathan Quick's money, and they only get a first and a third, and it's a conditional first that might not even be a first if the Kings don't make the playoffs this year. Columbus had to come down hard in their ask.
Would you do Broberg and a second for Chychrun?
Yes.
We have to get rid of a left shot D.
Yes, and my thinking, I wouldn't have done that deal prior to Ekholm. But now I sit there.
Ekholm, that's the thing. It's if Chychrun is not Ekholm, now we have Ekholm, which is amazing to say.
Yep. So how are you not tempted? Granted, I think you'd have to move out
some money.
It's either Yamamoto, maybe you could move out a CC in the deal. I don't know. But how are you not way more tempted? If no rights.
Then we need Trevor Van Riemsdyk. You got to pray that somehow Florida thinks they're done now and you can get Gudas. Like, no, we're just decimating the right side.
But if you can move out money, maybe it's even Yamamoto. I wouldn't have done second in Broberg a week ago. I would do a second in Broberg for Chychrun today because, damn it, sign me up for 3 more years of Nurse, Chychrun, Ekholm as the left side of your blue line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kulak now has to play the right side. Which is just illusion. We always just say that, oh, this guy can play his offside.
Why not? Teach him to shoot the other way.
Chychrun's a righty, right?
He's a lefty.
He's a lefty.
He's a left shot. Yeah.
Well, Nurse, in that theory, Nurse should learn to shoot right because he's the $9 million guy.
I understand the moving out
play with
Broberg,
a flat blade.
But if you have to move out Broberg and Yamo and a pick to get Chychrun, I hope there's something else coming back as well on top of
the we're getting Bukestad, which sits on a board, but whatever.
Yeah, sure. That's a hell of a saying. Frank's going to be along in a few minutes here to talk about all this.
Yeah, let's get Chychrun. I'm ready again. I'm back.
As well.
I've canceled my order, Chychrun jersey order. Now I'm going to resubmit.
I don't think it's something we should be holding our breath for. I'd love it, but I have a funny feeling, and maybe we'll get some insight from Frank on this. They're probably looking to the forward market. I also, it's the first time Ken Holland's traded a first-round pick as GM of the Oilers, and he basically traded 2.
They should have went after they left the window open, but they ended up re-signing him, Jensen.
Well, I mean, you just weren't going to get Jensen because they re-upped him, right? I think that's pretty clear.
They probably were waiting to see what they could get for him.
Yeah, maybe
someone wasn't aggressive enough because they value him high.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
The Oilers still have their second and third rounders coming this year. They have their first and second rounders next year. Their first in 2025. No second rounder in 2025. I believe that would have been a part of, the Zach Kassian deal over the summer. But you have your third in 2025. So really, maybe 6 more picks that you could play with. Maybe you're talking about moving some fringe level prospects if something else comes up, but you never know how much value those guys have to other organizations.
Radish. Let's go get Radish.
There's a lot of names the Oilers could still go get. Just taking a look at the YouTube chat. Lance says he bets $2 Ekholm's going to score tonight.
If you can find it, let me know because I would bet on that in a heartbeat.
I am in.
Is how many more spots do Chicago have to retain money? 2?
They retained on Kane. They retained on McCabe. So they only have the 1. Right?
Oh, you have 3?
You have 3, yeah. Okay. So they can only retain on 1.
Interesting. Radish should be a good pick just for the value.
Radish, yes. Right shot.
Played with Connor in Erie as well.
Did he?
I'm pretty
sure.
Were they
there?
Oh, yeah. The Erie connection never fails.
Never fails.
Worked every time. Look at Warren Fogle.
That's not Erie.
That's not Erie. That's gym buddies.
He played in Erie.
Did he?
Yeah. Warren Fogle
not at the same time.
Played in Erie.
I'm fact checking you. I'm fact checking.
He did. He played 1 year. He went to.
You're right. But it was 16-17. McDavid was gone.
Well, that's how he's here.
Because they're buddies.
Because they played at Erie.
No, but they didn't play in the Erie at the same time.
Together.
They played at Erie at one point.
All roads lead to Erie.
That's the extent of what you're saying.
Yes.
You kill me sometimes. All right. We're live on the Nation Network YouTube, and I know a bunch of you are chomping at the bit because you want to hear from our insider, Frank Seravalli, and I'm here to tell you his appearance is brought to you by our friends at Star Mechanical, who you can check out online at starmechanical.ca, Edmonton's top new home plumbing installer, and it's been that way for the last 20 years. Whether you need some work done in a house you're renovating, or you need 24/7 emergency service, you can give them a call, 780-481-8873. We now bring in the hardest working man in media. I just watched him at the bottom of my screen wipe his eyes because I'm sure he's gassed. Maybe a desk nap later today, Frank?
I told Tyler before we started Daily Face-Off Live earlier today, last night was the first time I ever fell asleep at my desk. It's like,
well, wasn't the quick thing like 1 a.m. your time?
Yeah, but then I spent the next hour chasing people to give me the final piece of the deal, which was a 3rd-round pick that I never got. And so I was up another hour and change. I was already in bed when the actual thing was happening. I oddly enough got a tip that something was off in Winnipeg for LA after the game. Something was up in their locker room. And so I texted a couple players and I said, what's going on? They said nothing. Like we haven't heard anything. So I crawled into bed and then got a message saying Jonathan Quick has just been traded. And I was like, okay, get out of bed, go downstairs. 2:25-ish, I fell asleep and I woke up with like drool all over my face at like 10 of 3, half finished story, and just like quick hit the publish button and move on.
It's that time of year right now, and yesterday was one of the wildest days I can remember in terms of trade activity. Like in the hour and a half where we were recording Oilers Nation Radio, the Leafs alone made 3 trades, and then Edmonton makes their 2nd deal of the day. I want to get your thoughts on the Mattias Ekholm move, Frank. The big debate here is not about what they got, but it's about what they gave up in Tyson Barrie, and a guy who was very well liked in the room. Do you like this move by Ken Holland and the Oilers, or do you think maybe they dipped a little bit too far into the cookie jar?
Look, I think this trade has benefits and it has risk. It's not always about what you give up, but I think in this case with a team that has the best power play in the league and you rip the quarterback off of the power play to send him somewhere else, not to mention the idea that he was one of the most popular players in the dressing room, I think there's risk in that. I also think there's risk in Mattias Ekholm and his game in general. This is a defenseman that's a big guy, which we know Ken Holland values, and his game has slowed of late. Like, it's a fact of life. Father Time remains undefeated. His feet aren't moving as quickly as they used to, and he was never really all that fast to begin with. So you have to worry, I think, about, the sort of deterioration factor, the age chart, age curve, whatever you want to call it. That's significant. But in the here and now, what is the biggest and most apparent feature of this trade is that it's an enormous stylistic change. You take an offensive-minded power play quarterback and Barrie out, and you sub him out with a guy who is essentially a better version of what you got from Duncan Keith last year, and you hope that on your back end, that's a big enough change. There's been this big debate in Edmonton all season long of, do we need a defensive defenseman or do we need someone that can move the puck better? And Ekholm does a little bit of both, but definitely shades way more towards defensive defenseman.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think some people are maybe overlooking, like, he does make a good first pass. Like you said, he does a little bit of both. But losing Tyson Barrie will certainly hurt in the puck moving department and on the power play. I mean, it's Evan Bouchard's job now, and it'll be interesting to see how that
Maybe
ends
not.
up playing out.
You heard Jay Woodcroft say today that it may be Darnell Nurse that gets a look in that spot.
Yeah, I could see that. We were talking about that earlier in the show, too, that Nurse kind of held that role before Barrie got here. In that first year Barrie got here, Nurse got some time on the Oilers' top unit power play as well. So we've broken this down 100 different ways, Frank, and there's probably no denying Ken Holland ain't done. There's more that he needs to do, and he's got a little bit of money, because when you look at yesterday, it was 4.5 plus 3, 7.5 going out, and The 4% retained on Ekholm's down to 6%. So they opened up about $1.5 million yesterday to potentially make another move. Thanks. So what are you thinking, Frank? What are you hearing? What could old Kenny Holland get up to?
Yeah, it's 1.3 million, and it can actually be a bit more than that, depending on if they're keeping Kyler Yamamoto, depending on if they're keeping Warren Fogle. They could move either one of those players to create more space if need be. And so what that does is at 1.3, assuming that you are going to get the other team that's involved in this next transaction to eat half, you're essentially looking at a $2.6 million player that you can add to your group right at this moment in time without the consideration of trading some of those pieces. So that's the exact market that the Oilers are looking in today, and they've been active again already to try and hone in on a few players that may fit. I think there's been lots of names that have been thrown out there. We heard Nick Bjugstad earlier. Max Domi, I think, is in the mix. There's a whole selection of players that are kind of in that range that you could fit in. I'd be curious to see which way they go. We know Ken Holland values size. He values it more on the back end than he does up front, but we've been talking for a long time this year about the Oilers finding a different element. Someone that maybe has a bit of an edge to them, someone that can bring you something different into the mix as opposed to the one-dimension collection of skill players that you have now.
Who are you describing there when you say that? That's based on who's available.
Yeah, I would say someone that has speed, someone that has a physicality, an edge to their game.
Tyler Bertuzzi?
Yeah, okay, so I hate saying Tyler Bertuzzi because I think it's such a tired narrative. And in fact, I think the Oilers probably hate and would repel against the optics of Ken Holland making a trade with the Detroit Red Wings. But that is a near ideal stylistic fit if you're thinking of someone that has high-end skill, that has bite, that can do a lot of different things for your team, and also doesn't get you into cap trouble moving forward because he's a pending unrestricted free agent. So that's I think a great fit. I also, if you're going to stay in Detroit, again, hate the notion and the optics, but Jacob Vrana, one of the best goal scorers in the league on a goals per 60 basis when you go back over the last 4 or 5 seasons, like at even strength north of Alex Ovechkin, that Detroit, he's not staying there, whether it's at this deadline, whether it's in the summer. He's not coming back next year. So if they buy him out, that's one thing. If they trade him in full, that's another. It's more expensive to trade for him now, given the cap hit. But would Detroit be willing to eat a percentage of what that buyout is in order to make the money work? Just another name to add to the list.
So on watch for another forward potentially. What about an extra?
I think there's the potential, just
D-man.
so you know, for two forwards.
2 forwards. Max Domi, Taylor Radish.
Yeah, what about Taylor Radish? You think
he scores a ton,
and he's a right shot. We need righties. We need a righty.
Yeah, I like Taylor Radish, and I think that contract next year is extremely valuable. He's actually technically under league minimum next year. It bumps to $775, and he's at $758 or something like that. Value, scores he's 14, 15 goals this year. He's not like super flashy, but he's been productive, and there's not another edge or element to his game. But for that price point, the problem is when you start talking about that price point, it becomes more expensive to acquire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fair. What about on the blue line? Like, we look at a group of 7 right now when you have Desharnais as sort of that extra piece. And I think a lot of people kind of agree with the notion that you need kind of 8 D-men at least to make it through a playoff run. I think they could benefit from going out and adding another depth piece, because I don't think you can have, if you hit injuries, like I don't want Marcus Niemelainen playing playoff games for me necessarily. Do you agree with the fact that they could probably benefit from another D-man as well? Kulikov-esque, like someone low?
They've been down the Kulikov path already. Am I misremembering it? Was he on the team in the bubble?
Yeah, he was.
Was there like giant pizzas served up the middle of the ice at Rogers Place in that 5-game series?
Big pizza guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, still having nightmares about that. But like, yes, in terms of acquisition price, like that's the neighborhood I think you'd be thinking in. Let me say this. Teams twist themselves into mental pretzels every time trying to figure out how do we go get this next guy that's a depth piece. I don't think Niemelainen is any different or any worse than Kulikov or someone else in that juncture. Like, if you're going to spend assets, make it be meaningful.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Chychrun. We're back on Chychrun then.
Oh, jeez.
It's possible.
Can you end it? Yeah. If they wanted, they would have got him.
If they were going to do it, it was going to be Chychrun instead of Ekholm. And I think for a while there, on Tuesday, it was going to be Chychrun. And I think they were very flirtatious with it, because my understanding is would not take a contract back in order to make it work, which is why they then went out and moved Puljujarvi to Carolina. And I was preparing personally and making calls thinking that Chychrun was going to end up being the guy, because they were waffling back and forth between the two of them.
Interesting. So it could have potentially been that close. Where else did I want to go?
Let me ask you this, and this is not to stir up anything, and even though I'm sure that's what this clip is going to do. At the end of the day, whenever Chychrun goes, how much more is he going to go for than what the Oilers paid for Ekholm?
I'm not am I wrong to say that like the first in Reid Schaefer might have been enough to get Chychrun done if you could have made the money work? Because aren't we hearing like 2 first-round pick assets, or is it way more than that?
So there is more to it than just that. And the interesting part about Schaefer is that other teams had asked for Schaefer and the Oilers said no. So to get him to that point, Nashville was asking for 2 first-round picks. They end up with Schaefer and a first, which is the equivalent of that. So then there would have needed to be another prospect involved to get Chychrun, plus to then, I guess make some of the money work now based on not moving Barrie, if that makes any sense. But then if you have Barrie, do you really need Chychrun? Like, there's a whole sort of complication in there in terms of how you build out the team. But I think at the end of the day, he's not going to go for much more than what the Oilers already paid for Ekholm.
Interesting.
So you think the Oilers are still potentially 2 moves and both forwards?
That's the way I would handicap it now. It's at least 1 trade, maybe 2.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
I kind of hope they save it for Friday, but there's still a lot of stuff that could happen around the league. We talked about, the disruption or potential disruption that comes along with trading a guy like Tyson Barrie out of the locker room. How about what the LA Kings did with Jonathan Quick? I know we talked about this on Daily Faceoff Live, which people should go check out if they haven't watched today's episode yet. It was great. But that feels like one where like you're not just trading a guy who's liked in the room, you're trading like a franchise legend, Frank.
Yeah, and I've gotten more detail of late, and I think everyone's disappointment revolves around how the Kings managed it. At no point in this process was Jonathan Quick brought in and said, hey, we might trade you. Hey, just a heads up. And they don't technically owe him any of that. He does not have a no trade. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he signed this contract extension before he actually won a cup in 2012. And it's an amazing story, actually, and not that many people remember it because he's been so good for so long. He's actually playing in the ECHL for a bit, and he's this guy that on a team that in Los Angeles they couldn't get it right in net. Think about all the different guys that they ran through there, Roman Czechmanek, and go down the list. They were lost for a long time. We had the unibrow here in Philly, so I remember the unibrow well. He was a combustible human being. But they sign Quick to this massive 10-year deal on July 12th, July 1, 2012. So I guess right after winning the cup. And he doesn't have the no trade protection. And he gets told yesterday on his way to the bus in Winnipeg that he's been traded. That just
like
hurts.
Bus to
like,
the
I'm
game
sorry.
or bus after the game?
Bus after.
Bus after the game, walking out of the arena. And that hurts. It just does. Like, there was no communication. There was no heads up. It's just, hey, we've traded you. And I think there was even some recent dialogue in the last number of weeks of, would you take a low money deal to come back and play here next year? And I think the answer was yes. And so it was not on his radar to be going anywhere. And that's just, I think here's my argument that I would make. No one feels bad for these guys. They are millionaires and they're being traded to go live in another, cushy place and make more millions of dollars somewhere else. But on a team of 23 players, there's probably 20 of them that are more or less pieces of meat, right? And this guy, having won 2 Stanley Cups and been the MVP of one of those playoff runs and seen your team through good and bad, probably just deserved a little more consideration in terms of managing that.
Mm-hmm. Someone yesterday had the Photoshop of the sword through the back, Fleury-esque, with Blake written on the blade. I thought that was funny, which also ties up into the new episode of Frankly Speaking that'll be available later today with Alan Walsh, the agent for Marc-Andre Fleury. So there you go.
The master of memes. And I actually asked him about his recent tweet about Jonathan Huberdeau. So check that out in the episode.
What are the Flames going to do, Frank? I know we're keeping you long, so I'll let you go right away. But one more Alberta-related question. What are the Flames going to do?
They are monitoring prices. They think the prices that have been paid have been too high. And I think they will end up being a buyer in a very lowercase sense of, you just mentioned, I kind of hope for the Oilers it waits until Friday. They may identify a fit today or tomorrow and say, this is the Oilers I'm talking about. We're going to go out and trade for this guy because we think he's a better fit than anyone else. And we want to make sure that we're not holding the bag. But they might take the approach that the Flames have been taking all deadline, which is they think there's more players available than there are teams buying. That may especially be the case after so many teams have gotten shopping done, that they may be able to add a player, and I said this on Barn Burner today, at a very low price. That's not a huge needle mover, but may help on the margins to get their team in the playoffs without having given up a lot. And the example I always come back to is last year at the deadline, 2:50 p.m. Eastern, 10 minutes to go. I actually got a text saying Max Domi hasn't been traded. Can't believe it. And he literally went at 2:59 for a 6th round pick and scored a game-winning goal in the playoffs. That might be in line with what the Flames are looking at, of just find something to help you that doesn't cost a lot in this wonky roller coaster season.
Fair enough. Frank, our chat just did a big thank you, Frank. We told everyone to comment, thank you, Frank. So I hope you appreciate that. You're doing great work.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'm
working for the people.
This is my Super Bowl, so I'll sleep on Saturday.
And this is coming from a guy who was at the Super Bowl. Big Super Bowl day, I guess. The day is March 3rd. I'll be hosting. Frank will be up in his insider cam. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, Matt Larkin, Pete Blackburn, Stephen Ellis, Mike McKenna. Everyone's going to be around. It is going to be 4 hours of commercial-free hockey talk on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. If you're not subscribed yet, go do it and tune in Friday. Frank, we're going to have a good time, and I know you'll be digging up some good news. Can't wait.
I'll see what I can do on the Oilers front between now and then.
Yes,
work the phones, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Whisper in Ken's ear.
Frank Seravalli's appearance brought to you by Star Mechanical, starmechanical.ca. They got over 50 plumbers and gas fitters on staff, 35 of which are Red Seal journeymen. And they said if Frank needs a nap, he can just come borrow one of the trucks. He can just go sit in the back of the truck. Someone will drive around and Frank will just take a nap in the back. There you go.
That's service.
That is service. That's the kind of service you get with Star Mechanical. Talking about forwards, 1, maybe 2. Interesting. I like the Domi idea. Liam, I can see the glow on your face as I say it, but that's a guy who gives you a little bit of snarl. He can play up and down your lineup, play a couple different positions. He's not a right shot, which I don't love, but Frank said $1.3 million in cap space. Domi at half retained is 1.5. You can almost make this bad boy work.
I'd take Bertuzzi over Domi, though.
Yeah, but you're going to pay more for Bertuzzi.
That's fine.
So next year's first for Bertuzzi or this year's second for Domi? I don't know anything.
You could
I'm
do
just
both
saying.
if that's the cost.
You could, I guess.
Right? One or two.
Yeah.
But we should go Radish.
I like the Radish idea.
I'm Johnny Lunchpail.
I'm intrigued by it how much is it going to cost? We just saw what Jeannot went for. The Oilers going to have to pay for that for a Radish. Maybe he doesn't bring as much, but still scored 14 goals this season.
He won't be Jeannot because he doesn't have that extra element, right?
He's not from Saskatchewan.
And there you go. He's not from Saskatchewan.
But he's in the Ariada.
That only has currency in one place and one place only. So your mind.
Would you move Yamamoto for Domi and Radish?
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of a silly question.
100%.
I would do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was silly.
Sign the papers.
Yamamoto for Domi and Radish?
Yeah. You'd probably throw a pick in a third.
Yeah, probably second.
I don't know.
Fourth or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd do it. Yeah, right. Well, I just don't know what is going on with that guy. If that guy had half the touch he used to have when it was the Yam Dry Nuge or Dry
Rye Dry and Kai.
Rye Dry and Kai. We would have won. We would have beat Boston by 2.
Yeah. It's tough. He's fighting it right now.
I know. I feel for him, but
yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Salvatore says, what about getting Zach Kassian back in the mix? I joked about that earlier in the season when he was getting healthy scratch like crazy, but he's got an extra year on that deal, right? Again, if he was like last year of the deal and you could get him for $1 million, I'd be like, bring him in. He's good in the room, all that stuff. But no, probably not a fit. We hear a lot of smoke connecting them to Nick Bukestad, but I'm
Lawson Krause?
Jay, I think they're dealing with the margins right now. I don't think they're dealing with significant ads like that. And I also think they want to keep their cap flexibility for the summer. I think that's something that's worth keeping in mind. The cap could potentially go up.
Yeah.
We need it to go up.
We have about 10 million right now.
Yeah, I think it'll jump up a couple million here. I mean, if you were to move Yamamoto, you'd be getting $3 million off the books for next year as well, and that'd give you a little bit more free agency money. I want to see.
Are you guys okay with losing another character like Yamamoto, though?
He's good in the room, though. Are you like? I'm watching what the Leafs are doing.
He's high energy and he's fun.
Yeah, the guys like him.
I know.
Because then you also add guys like Duncan Keith was gone.
Yeah.
Mike Smith, Chris Russell just in the summer, just those guys. And you move Barrie and Puljujarvi, and then you move Yamamoto. You're losing a lot of character. And I'm not saying the guys that are coming in aren't, but like I think you were just going to say, Ty, the players the Leafs brought in are all like highly competitive players who have won Stanley Cups or whatever, right?
And they didn't move out. Who's the key piece in the room they moved out? I know the Swedes had a tight bond in that room, so there's that.
Engvall?
Yeah, again, the Swedes in that room.
Oh, is he Swedish?
Is he Swedish?
I think so, yeah.
I thought he was French-Canadian.
Yeah.
Considering his name is Pierre.
I don't think I'm going that crazy. Yeah, he's born in Sweden.
Oh, well, they have it.
So the Swedes, they moved out.
Grew up in Montreal?
Pierre's a European-y name.
In France, yeah.
France.
Well, I mean, it's...
Maybe Switzerland will give you.
Modern day people move
Pierre
around.
Lebrun, Pierre Maguire, which doesn't sound French, but...
Yeah, I was going to say what. Anyways, the point is, this summer, I think those will be shopping for a righty, no matter what they do, whether Yamamoto's in or out. But if you move Yamo, you open up $3 million. If we're talking about things that I'd like to see happen in the summer, Connor Brown. I could see him being the 1 year,
the one that got away?
1 year, $1.5 million kind of thing this summer, but that's a conversation for another day. Connor Brown's out for the rest of the season, so you can't get him now. Taking some questions here in the chat. Wise Kyle says, TVR at 50% for a fifth, Domi at 50%, and Radish for Janmark and Kulak. That's probably not that realistic. TVR at 50% for a fifth isn't enough. TVR has legit value on the market. Domi at 50 and Radish for Janmark and Kulak. Chicago wants future pieces, not old roster players. So you're probably off on both of those, even though I'll say all three of them are solid targets. And we heard Frank say that Domi could be a guy that makes sense.
Bertuzzi Verana package is happening, isn't it?
They can't afford that.
You want them.
You know what? And tonight I'm going to go buy myself a Lamborghini because why not? You need to. You can't go bring it. How would they bring in $9 million in cap hit?
Half retained
on each of them.
Yep.
So that's four and a
half million. Yamo out. Send down Janmark.
Send back Shaw. Then you would get it.
There you go.
It is a Sherwood Ford Giant game day today on the show. We do need to.
But I don't know why we're talking about Vrana. Vrana, you signed in the offseason. We don't like.
But he scores so much. I don't know.
Well, has he though? How's this year been? How has he been in the AHL?
Tyler Mulick says Vrana, Bukestad, Gudis. Frank kind of threw cold water on the.
What is the love for Bukestad outside of just being massive?
I think that's it. I think his cap. Is the love.
Radish then is like, I love that cap at 14 goals.
And he's a righty.
So is Bukestad.
What are people in the chat telling me I should do? I'm so confused.
Take your shirt off?
Maybe.
What are people?
Someone just said, Tyler, you should do it. It would look good on you. And then someone else said it too. And then they retracted the message.
Lamborghini.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Maybe. Jay and I will meet after about increasing my pay for the remainder of the season, and then I'll get back to
but that's a death warrant. You driving a Lamborghini whilst trying to consume lunch is
hey, I shared my taquitos with you today.
I had a taquito. It was delicious. Thank you.
It was very good.
I just needed it. I still haven't had lunch yet, which is crazy for me.
All right. Shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford, the Giant. Remember, their Ford mobile service is a really neat little thing. It's one of the many reasons you should be using Sherwood Ford, the Giant, next time you need a new vehicle. The Oilers
testimonial Nation Bronco is at Sherwood Ford right now,
really?
Just because some warranty recall stuff that happens from time to time. So using the valet service. So showed up to work. They picked up my car and they're dropping it back off this afternoon as if nothing happened.
That is unbelievable. Like, think about that. You're just at work. They come grab your car, fix it up, bring it back. Your day's not disrupted at all.
Did not disrupt me one bit, except for I had to go outside and give them the keys.
Yep, that's annoying.
The things I do, folks.
The Toronto Maple Leafs roll into town on a 3-game winning streak. They're 7-3 in their last 10.
Be so annoying in the building.
This team has 37 wins in 60 games this season, and they have retooled this lineup in a significant way. Let's take a look at how the Leafs will line up tonight, starting with the top line. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and Michael Bunting. Bunting, 3 goals in his last 5 games, pending UFA. The Oilers like grabbing former Maple Leafs on the free agent market.
And signing him for a lot of money.
And he's a prick to play against, too.
Yeah, he's a prick.
Ryan O'Reilly on the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. All 3 of these players have 3 goals in their last 5. Again, this Leafs team humming along pretty well. We're going to get a look at Ryan O'Reilly in this hockey game as well, which I know will make Rick upset, make you a little upset that he's wearing a Leafs jersey.
Yep.
Third line, David Kampf with Kalle Yarncroc and Alexander Kerfoot. Noel Achari with Sam Lafferty and Zach Aston Reese is the fourth line.
It's good fourth line.
Yeah, the D pairings for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Morgan Riley with Justin Hall, Jake McCabe with TJ Brody, Mark Giordano with Timothy Liljegren. Sounds like, from what we heard in pregame avails, Luke Schenn and Eric Gustafsson won't make it in time for this game here tonight. Surprising, actually, that Schenn won't be able to make it in
Vancouver.
Yeah, he's in Vancouver. But this is the 6th the Leafs are expected to go with.
Holland must be shut down.
Yeah, he's driving. The goalie tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs is likely going to be Ilya Samsonov. Stopped 26 of 27 for his 3rd straight victory last time he was out between the pipes. For the Edmonton Oilers, let's dig into our line combinations for them. Connor McDavid with Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with Kyler Yamamoto. And what? Vinny Desharnais. Yes, it's because the Oilers are going 11-7 again.
Really need to fill that second line left wing, eh?
Yeah, or flip Hyman back to the left side, get a righty. Or Evander Kane's healthy.
Yeah. Flip him to the left. Move, get a righty. Yeah.
Or again, with Kane being healthy. I feel like
Yamo needs to be pushed down. He's not a second line player right now. What the hell are we even talking about?
The reason, if you're like, why is Desharnais up there? Again, 11-7. The way Woodcroft's kind of working it, and I would expect him to continue to do this tonight, is those 5 forwards up at the top really just cycle through with each other, and then they play a third line of McLeod, Fogle, Janmark, and a fourth line.
Janmark had a pretty good game against Boston.
He had a really good game. I thought he was buzzing. That third line had a good game against Boston.
Yeah, Fogle is now starting to be a little bit more consistent, so I really hope that can continue.
Drives the play a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, I like that. Fogle has kind of played himself off the trade block, in my opinion, because if that guy can keep playing as engaged as he is, he'll be a force for them in the playoffs. It's just a matter of him keeping it going,
Yeah.
Klim Kostin, Derek Ryan, and Devin Shore as the fourth line. Shore is back up with the team, right, Liam?
Yes. Last time we spoke, he was on the team.
Okay. There you go.
He's probably been sent down and recalled in the last.
I actually think he has, like in the last days since they started making all these moves. The D pairings for the Oilers: Nurse with Ceci, Ekholm with Bouchard, Broberg, Kulak, and Desharnais, and some combination will make up for 6-7 or the 5-6-7 spots on the blue line. Whoa, I stumbled my way through that. But yeah. There you go. That is how the Oilers could line up tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I have a deadline acquisition for us.
Okay.
Dylan Holloway.
Oh, yeah. I hate that, though. I hate when they do the whole guy coming back. Evander Kane's going to be a deadline ad for us.
Oh, I can't. Ken, why did you say that?
Oh, did the Red Wings just get it? Yeah. Dylan Larkin's got an extension in Detroit.
8.5.
Breaking news from Pierre LeBrun. 8 by 8.7 is the deal for Dylan Larkin to stay a member of the Detroit Red Wings. So the Red Wings lock up their captain. Here's a little head-to-head. Connor McDavid against Austin Matthews. This is the Sherwood Ford Giant matchup of the game.
Double the points.
It's pretty funny. Connor McDavid, 22 more goals than Austin Matthews, even though he's only played 8 more games. Austin Matthews having a bit of a down year. Leafs fans would quickly sit there and tell you, oh, but he's playing way better defensively. And, well, he's actually not when you look at the metrics. He's just having a straight-up down season after potting 62 last season. Connor McDavid has now taken the reins as the best goal scorer in the NHL. And I would imagine our pal 97 is going to be fired up to keep the goal streak going.
Maybe he hits 60 tonight.
I mean, it's right there for the taking. That was my phone.
No.
How many games did it take Matthews to score 50 last year?
Wasn't it 61?
I thought he was 62.
Might have been 62.
And how many has it taken McDavid?
61.
Okay, just wanted to check.
So he's on the same pace, but I'm hoping he can, because right now he's on pace for 67. Imagine he can finish with 70.
It's just so ridiculous to pull up his game logs. Because, for some players, they'd be like, oh, hey, they're on a 4-game point streak. And it'd be like, wow, that guy's hot. Or it'd be like, hey, he's on a 4-game multi-point streak or a 4-game goal streak. You'd be like, wow, that's crazy. Connor McDavid has 2 goals in 4 straight games. That's ridiculous. That's better than video game numbers. He's also
He is in full sim mode.
Yeah.
We're living in a simulation.
Confirmed.
On a simulation. It's his league, and we just watch it.
32 shots on goal in his last 5 games as well. He's averaging north of 6 shots on goal a game. His line tonight...
It's because we're behind, and he's just getting pissed. He's trying to will us back to victory.
But his line tonight is set at 4.5, and I'm still betting on the over for shots on goal.
It better be plus.
It's minus 120.
Oh, books are just... Are we dogs tonight?
Home dogs.
We better
Home dogs.
Yeah. The Leafs roster is legit.
It's very good.
But they are still the Leafs. But you still have to admit it's legit.
Let's skip ahead. Let's get into our Betway talk here for this evening. Hit that button, Aaron. Shout out to Betway, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. The Oily Boys are home dogs tonight at Rogers Place, welcoming in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Edmonton plus 105 on the money line. If you want to flip that puck line around and you say, hey, I think the Oilers are going to blow them out this evening, plus 220 is the payout you would get there. We do have our Betway Game Day Big Bet Challenge. I'm 5-6, but up 1.65 units. Liam down just under 2 units. And then ringing up the rear is Jay. 1-10.
Hey, so since we started this, I've always been betting on the Oilers to win.
Yep.
With some kind of success component attached to it. So I'm betting, I'm staying on brand.
And even when
they should have beat Boston.
Yeah.
Just 2 mistakes.
2 mistakes and some bad bounces and bad finishing abilities in front of the net. Yep. So you're going Oilers money line, Connor 2+.
Well, if the Oilers are going to win, Connor's getting 2 points. I stand by that statement forever. Any game he plays in, if he wins, if that team wins, he's likely to get 2 points.
That's fair. Liam, you're keeping it simple today.
I'm a simple man today. Oilers money line plus 105.
Good man. Yeah. I respect that.
I'm not taking a side in this one.
Yeah, you're scared. He's scared.
I'm sitting in first place, though.
Yeah.
Oilers penalty kill sucks. Oilers power play, very good. McDavid, good on the power play. Matthews, good on the power play. Them to each get a power play point plus 300.
You
like
would
that
cheer
spot.
for Matthews to score.
Oh, you've done stuff like this too.
On this?
Yes, you have.
What have I done?
There was a game a week ago. We had to convince you to not take the Islanders. They weren't even playing the Oilers.
Just because I was, and thankfully I didn't. I think that's the only game I won. No, I still lost.
Yeah, you did. Just don't mess with what I got a system.
Well, clearly a betting system. I am betting with my heart. At
Yep.
some point, that pays off. It's
Eventually.
undefeated.
It looks like it.
We got a question in the chat about Jack Campbell. I actually believe it's going to be Stuart Skinner
Oh,
tonight.
it should be.
Jack Campbell stayed out late with the extras, and Skinner didn't take part in pre-games or in morning skate. So my buddies are roasting you in my group chat.
For what?
Tyler, Oilers have 1 million cap space. Jay, we should trade for Matthews, McKinnon, and Panarin.
You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy.
Could we get half
not
the Red
possible.
Wings roster?
Guys, that's not possible. What I described is possible.
To be fair, it is. I just don't think it's possible, but it's not realistic. So I'll end with that. I do like behind the scenes that we got like a smirking Frank Seravalli looking.
It's always
back
funny when it
It's
freezes. He's
Yeah.
got something on his,
He stayed for a couple of seconds. There you go. That's what we've been looking at on our screen as Frank Seravalli.
Yeah.
Frank Seravalli freeze cam brought to you by
Yeah.
Star Mechanical.
Yeah.
We do need to wrap this show up here at some point because I have a radio hit to
I gotta
watch.
have lunch.
Yeah, I could go for a bite to eat as
And the
well.
game's at 5. Game's
Six.
It's at 6.
6.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice surprise.
Why
huh?
did I think it was at 5?
I don't know.
I thought it was at 5 too. Maybe I just assumed because the
Yeah,
world
because the
revolves
Leafs
around
come to
Toronto.
town and we just roll the red carpet, whatever their rules are. They're already. This is the thing that drives me nuts about Oilers games when the Leafs are in town. It's about 80% Leafs fans in there,
I know.
and I bet you 50 to 65% of those Leafs fans the next day, the next game, are wearing their McDavid jersey.
Oh, I hate that so
Yeah, you can't do that.
much. So much.
I
Have
see
both.
you. I see you. And I hear you at those games. It's annoying.
There was a lot of Bruins fans the other day too.
Oh yeah,
actually.
Bruins travel. Well, that once again, Oilers fans converted
Yeah,
because their grandpa
like
knew
the Bruins.
Bobby Orr or went to his book signing in Sudbury
Okay. We're
in
gonna-
1973.
We're going to wrap this up with our short for Giant Keys to Victory. Drop them in the chat and also hit the subscribe button before you leave the show today as well. I'd love to get to 10K at some point soon. I
Let's
said in
go.
the month of March, I want to get to 10K. So help me reach that goal.
And Liam and I have to assign something. To
Oh, yeah.
People
we
were
got
saying
10K.
the Yaremchuk calendar.
But what is that? What do you mean?
I don't know. And
What does that
it
even
scares
mean?
me. Short for Giant Keys to Victory tonight
Is
for
it
the
an
Oilers.
OnlyFans calendar? Because then that's interesting.
By premium.
Yeah, you got to pay a lot for that. Oilers taking on the Leafs. I'm just going to say limit the mistakes, folks. I'm excited to see Mattias Ekholm. I think he'll help in that regard. But we saw the Oilers largely keep pace with the Boston Bruins team, who's the best team in the NHL. And what killed them was their mistakes. So don't lose your man in coverage. Hustle back if there's an odd man. Do the little things right tonight, and you will come away with a giant victory. That's my key.
That's exactly. It's
Yeah.
not. These aren't teams you can outscore mistakes on.
Nope.
So, there was a lot of promise from that Boston game because we did kind of we did a good job in it, and yet, a couple gaffes, and just we had those scoring chances, and just come on.
Oh, that when they were down 5-on-3 and almost freaking scored.
Why
at
don't
the
we
end,
kill penalties like that all the time? We controlled the play.
It was wild. I think it's one of those things. Remember when the Oilers blew that lead to St. Louis earlier in the year, even though they had a power play? I think there's something that messes with players when they're on the ice for a power play like that and not thinking, let's score. They're thinking, okay, we can't get scored on.
Yeah.
Because
The 5-on-3, the Chris
Yeah.
Chalmers mentality.
Yeah.
in the 5-on-3 at the end, the mentality is it truly doesn't matter if they score here. So
Yeah.
you can put so much pressure on.
Yeah.
In other games, I guess if they score, it probably matters a little bit more.
Fair enough. All right, that's going to be a wrap on today's edition of the show. Shout out to our friends at the Sports Closet. Ekholm, 14 jerseys. they can make it happen for you the same way they made Jay's Clean Costin jersey happen. That's why we love the Sports Closet. Check out their stock online, sportscloset.ca. Also, our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Give them a follow on Instagram at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Love a good Sherwood Ford the Giant game day. Love trade season. Love the trade talk. Love Frank Seravalli's appearance for Star Mechanical. And I would love to see an Oilers victory tonight. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, noon Mountain.